Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Matchday Live as Leicester City make the short trip, just a 30-mile journey to the City Ground to take on Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. Kick off in an hour, 2:15, and we'll have all the Matchday build-up for you and some commentary of the game for you as well. But the next hour is all about building up to the game. And I've got two lovely guests with me who are going to talk me through this, and quite exciting guests as well. Simon Grayson's here. Simon, good to see you.
Good afternoon.
Lots going on in your world at the moment. We will come on to that very, very soon. Ewan, good to see you. How are you doing?
Lewis? I'm good, thank you.
Good game today for Leicester City to hopefully spoil a bit of Nottingham Forest's end of season party. How do you think the Leicester City fans are feeling about it, and also the players?
Well, I think it's fair to say it's a far more important game for Nottingham Forest in the position that they are. You know, fighting for a top 4, top 5 finish, which would give them Champions League football next season. I mean, they've had a fantastic season. This time last year, I think they were 4th from bottom, avoided relegation by just 6 points, I think. At the minute, if you were to ask me who the manager of the season was, even though I'm a bit of a closet Liverpool fan, I mean, the job that Nuno's done this season has been incredible. I think they've only Liverpool and Arsenal have been in the top 4 for more days than Forest. They've slipped up of late. Is the pressure starting to get to them? Maybe it is. And Leicester, on the back of that really good positive win last week against Southampton here at the King Power, you know, hopefully they can get back-to-back wins.
I think there's no better game today for Leicester to go to the City Ground and spoil the party, because Forest will be local derby match, as we all know. Thinking 3 points gets them into the top 5, 6 again. What a great day to sort of go and ruin sort of might be a party atmosphere at the City Ground.
Yeah, of course, Forest players will also be keeping an eye probably on the game that was already kicked off, and that was at St James's Park, Newcastle against Chelsea. Last time we saw it, Newcastle were 1-0 up. We'll keep an eye on that and bring you the score throughout the afternoon. Before we go any further, let's have a look at today's team news, starting with Leicester City's lineup. And it is an unchanged team from the win against Southampton last weekend. So, of course, Mads Hermansen has had that surgery, so he's out for the rest of the season. Jakub Stolarczyk in goal. Justin, Cody, Fass and Thomas at the back, with Ndidi and Skip, those holding midfielders. El Khanous, Ayew and McAteer providing the attacking flanks for Jamie Vardy through the middle, of course, as Jamie Vardy comes towards the end of his Leicester City career and is just 1 goal away from his 200th for Leicester. How he'd love to get it at the City Ground, and who knows what that celebration would look like. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later on. As for Nottingham Forest, they've got one change that's been enforced. Murillo was the player injured against Palace last time out, and he's been replaced at the back by Morato. So Sells in goal, Aina, Milenkovic, Morato and Williams across the back. Sangare and Anderson in the midfield. Dominguez out wide, Elanga on the other flank, and then Gibbs-White behind a familiar face in Chris Wood leading the line, and what a season he's had for Nottingham Forest. So plenty more to come in terms of today's game, but I think we need to talk, Simon Grayson, a little bit about being a league champion this season in Nepal. Tell us about this. This is amazing.
Yeah, look, I went to India 2 years ago for 18 months, and then I got a call in probably January, February time. Did I want to go to coach a team in Nepal? And it's the Nepal Super League. They have franchise teams, and I thought, why not? It was for 7-8 weeks. I just thought it's a life experience, but also it's a good coaching opportunity for me to sort of test myself out my comfort zone like I did in India. And it was even harder when I went to India, because I went on my own. I didn't know about my own players because they were bought for me in the franchise, like the Indian Cricket Premier League. I didn't have any staff with me, and it was just completely a new environment. And I loved it. It was challenging at times because infrastructure wasn't as good as you'd expect it to be, but that's part of the challenge of a coach. You're going with ideas of your sessions, but then all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, can't do that on this training pitch. I've got to change it around. And yeah, we topped the league unbeaten, and then we won the semi-final and then won the final a couple of Saturdays ago. So yeah, it was nice to do something different, nice to win it, but it's also been nice to be back home as well.
My Nepalese isn't great. What was the name of the club?
Lalitpur City. Yeah, based in Kathmandu. So the tournament was in Kathmandu all the time. You played on one stadium, and the schedule was quite tough. Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, sometimes Saturday, Thursday, Saturday. So yeah, it was a great opportunity.
Look at this trophy, by the way.
Yeah.
That's fun. What is that?
It was It was heavy as well when we were trying to lift it up. But yeah, it was a nice trophy. The team I went to, they won it last year as well, so we regained the trophy, which was good because the bit of pressure on you when you're going into a new club and the previous coach had won the tournament last year, that you've got to try and win it. No matter where you are in the world, owners are very demanding and they expect you to go and win things, and fortunately managed to do that. So yeah, it's and I put it up. I got interviewed quite a few times over the last few weeks, and I put it up there with one of my best achievements. And that's winning with Leicester at Wembley and getting promoted with Leeds and my other teams, because it was just the unknown. I was out of my comfort zone. As I said, I knew nothing about what I was doing, and the infrastructure wasn't great. So yeah, I was really pleased what we'd done.
So what would you compare the standard in this country with, sort of thing?
Probably League One-ish, I would think. Maybe League Two. It was
a decent standard.
It was a decent. You had a decent starting 11 because we had 6 foreigners. 5 could start and 1 was off the bench. And then within my team, we had 3 national team players who I think could have been really good players. And as in a different country as well. I think they could play in League One over here, 3 or 4 other players. But one of the most sort of satisfying things as well is 2 players who I sort of had in the team have just been called up to the national team as well. And first time, turned a centre-back into a left-back, and now he's going to play left-back for the national team in the next friendlies in June time. So that's part of your development as a coach as well.
You've done so much in your career, but you're obviously still learning. She's saying that it was such an amazing experience. What did you learn about yourself?
That you can coach still in difficult circumstances, and using your experience of being able to adapt for sessions. So you're thinking you'll go and do one session, and believe me, the pitches weren't great, and you're going, there's no way I can put this session on, not even a simple crossing and finishing exercise where you could do it because the pitch was so bobbly. Trent Alexander probably wouldn't have been able to cross a ball on that pitch, but it was testing, and that's what you do sometimes. That's why I went out there, and yeah, really enjoyed it. The people were really humble, really looked after me, and it's another life experience of being a part of the world that probably 3 years ago, I never thought I'd ever visit, think about, or even know where it was. Because Nepal, although it's got Mount Everest there, you wanted to do a bit of sightseeing, but it just didn't get to that point. I was ready for home. But I will go back probably either as a tourist or even maybe back next year. I'll wait and see.
Can I tell you a story? I knew Simon was going because I saw Larry at Ellen Road. Going back a few weeks now when Cardiff were there, when Leeds won 7-0. And I'm in the press room about 2 hours before kick-off, and I'm with like my BBC colleagues, and we're having a bit of lunch and that. And I see Simon at the other end of the room, and because you can't miss him, can you? And he's talking to 2 members of staff from Leeds, and I've got to go over and say hello. So I'm walking over, and Larry's seen this big lump walking towards him with a beard and glasses. He did not have a clue. Honestly, he was like, oh, what does this fella want? He didn't have a clue who I was.
Only because I didn't have my glasses on at the time. That's why I could hear him before I could see him, to be fair.
Well, massive congratulations. It's amazing what you achieved. So is there a chance of going back?
I don't know. I will say the tournament was 8 weeks, as I said. Whether it is another next season or not, we'll wait and see. But what it's done over the back of it, it's given me opportunities. I've had 1 or 2 offers to go back out into Southeast Asia, obviously India and Nepal. People have talked about me going to maybe Indonesia and Singapore and Malaysia for jobs, but I'm quite happy to be back home in Yorkshire at this moment in time, and I'll maybe leave the travelling for a bit longer.
Well, it's good to have you with us today, Simon. So thank you so much for being with us. Let's talk a little bit about last weekend. Southampton for Leicester. Unchanged team today. It's not very often this season that a manager at Leicester's been able to go, we've got a winning team. I'm not going to change that.
No game in midweek. I might be a little bit old-fashioned, but I am a big believer, even in this day and age where you have got big squads, that if a team wins, why change it? If it's not broken, why try and fix it? On the back of only the 2nd clean sheet this season. So I wasn't expecting too many changes if there wasn't injuries or suspensions. So I can totally understand why the manager's gone with the same starting 11.
Yeah, it's just one of them, isn't it? Not won for such a long time, and then the players that have gone and got the victory deserve the opportunity to stay in the team as well. And like Iwan says, it's not a tough schedule at the moment. After today, there's 2 games left, isn't there? And then they'll all be deciding what they're doing and what holidays they're going on and what clubs they're going to be at next year if they're not being returned here.
Yeah. One change there is on the bench for Leicester, and that's Facundo Buonanotte is back among the substitutes after coming through his concussion protocol. So that's good news for Leicester City. In terms of what happens now for Leicester, yes, there's a party to spoil at the City Ground, but also, as you've just mentioned, these players are playing to prove a point as well.
Yeah, look, they've let themselves down all season without a shadow of doubt, without being too strong against them, but they've gone down with a whimper, really. All 3 teams that have gone down this year have gone down with giving very little fight in this Premier League season. And obviously there's been disharmony amongst the supporters and the ownership and other things that have contributed, I think, as well. But you're playing for your futures. You're either going to be here in the Championship under the current manager, or if another manager's coming in, he'll be looking at videos and clips of the games this season, thinking, well, am I going to rely on you next year to get Leicester City promoted back to the Premier League? And you're playing for your own pride and your own future. Yeah, you might be under contract, but you can quite easily get rid of to other clubs if that was to be the case. So it's personal pride. We've been there before, and you're playing for your own benefit and your own pride, saying, look, we've been criticised all season, at least get a little bit of positivity before the season ends.
Exactly that. I think try and finish the season on a high to give, I'm not saying a bit of hope for next season, because I think the crew that are here right now, I think are more than capable of getting another promotion from the Championship next season. But can they go these next 3 games unbeaten? And as I say, finish with a little bit of momentum. Yeah, it is too little too late. And it is hard. I remember when we went down in, was it 93, 94?
Yeah.
It was one of those seasons we were getting beat on a regular basis. There was times we were going out there and we were mentally thinking we weren't nowhere near good enough. The difference now is it's so hard for promoted teams to compete at this level. You know, for the second season, second successive season, the 3 teams that have been promoted have come straight back down. That gap has got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's only going to get bigger. If you can survive that first season, then it gives you a really good chance.
Well, I think Forest are a good example that they survived the first season, then the second season just can build on it, and now where they are at this moment in time, and that's not been able to happen for a lot of the promoted teams as well. And Leicester's obviously a prime example of promoted, relegated, and then hopefully promoted next year as well.
Yeah, you said about finishing with positivity. I guess the thing for Leicester fans last week watching is some of the football they played against Southampton was absolutely excellent. If we have a little look at Jamie Vardy's goal to start with, the move and the finish, it was a sublime goal.
It's a fantastic finish, and Jamie's done incredibly well. You know, what a finish that is on his left foot. You know, hits it first time. 8 goals this season. That's good in a struggling side who maybe don't create as many chances as some of the other teams in the Premier League. He's been fed on bits at times. He's missed chances. You know, it's a really good ball in. He just sort of hesitates with his run, sort of gives that option to El Canouse, and it's not an easy one because it bounces just in front of him, and he hits it on the half volley. It's a fantastic strike. But we've seen that on more than one occasion. I remember the Man City game here earlier in the season where weren't quite at it in the first half. Second half, far more positive, and they gave Man City a really good game. But they haven't done it on a consistent basis, and that's why, sadly, it's ended up in relegation.
Let's have a little listen to what Ruud van Nistelrooy's had to say ahead of today's game. Of course, going to the City Ground to take on Nottingham Forest. 2:15 is the kickoff, and here is the Leicester City boss talking ahead of today's match.
Yeah, it will be one. It's a derby. It's a special game for both fan bases. Obviously, Forest being in a position where they can reach Champions League qualification, which is obviously a big thing for them, or European place. So they will be totally ready, total the favourites, you know, where they are in the league and where we are. But we wanna perform to our best. We want to show that we're going to compete, that we're going to fight, that we're going to show ourselves together with the away fans. Make it a good afternoon.
Go. Ruud van Nistelrooy talking ahead of today's game and saying that yes, okay, we're down. They've still got something to play for, but it is a derby match. And that brings an element of rivalry and a special
Exactly.
touch to the
There'll be
fixture.
lots of supporters going into work tomorrow morning, Forest and Leicester fans working in the same office, and they want the bragging rights. And again, we mentioned it earlier, Leicester can put a bit of a damp squid on Forest celebrations for Champions League football. So no better game for the Leicester players. And Ruud obviously speaking there that he knows the importance of this particular game, but he wants to finish the season as positively as anyone for his own credibility and his own sort of personal welfare as well, because he's had a lot of criticism and the results not being great. And if he can build on it and get a result today, great for him, but also the bragging rights for in the morning for a lot of the supporters.
Yeah. In terms of derby matches, what is it as a player that kind of gets you riled up for them?
Well, I'll tell you one story about when I think we both played for Leicester at the City ground, obviously against Nottingham Forest. And I went up for a header with Steve Chettle, and Steve was a really good footballing centre half, probably maybe a little bit before his time. Anyway, we've gone up for this ball in the air. He's landed flat on his back. He's writhing about in agony. Stuart Pearce has come running straight up to me, got me by the throat. His whole kicked off. Like, whilst he was involved, Simon never got anywhere near the trouble to face. He sort of stayed away.
Sensible.
Anyway, the physio, their physio's come on. He's gone over to Steve Chettle and said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, I've just got a blade of grass in my eye." So Stuart Pearce is like obviously gone absolutely berserk, shown his psycho mentality, apologised, and then he actually sent me a letter. So he wrote me a letter to Beaver Drive, apologising for his actions on that day. But I mean, derby games, they were really lucky for me. I mean, my first ever hat-trick came for Leicester against Derby.
Yeah. I think when we played back when we were playing, we didn't play.
You understood
Forest.
it more, didn't
we didn't
you?
play Forest too often as well.
No.
Derby was the local match really, because with the divisions that we're in, Forest were probably more Premier League when we were in the Championship as it was back then. But yeah, it means a lot to everybody still to be kicking lumps out of the opposition, because the home Leicester supporters just want to see a bit of fire and determination and grit. And like I said,
we probably played in the biggest derby, didn't we, at Wembley?
Yeah.
In the final of the playoffs against Derby, and they were a good side. And we were talking about it earlier. I mean, we had a big front three. My little went for
ugly as well.
went for Biggie and Ormond was 6'7". Steve Walsh 6'3", 6'4". Myself, who hadn't played for the last 6 weeks because I'd broken ribs. It was my first game back. I got dragged off after about 55 minutes. And I tell you what, they say there's no better way of getting promoted than through the playoffs. That is spot on. But to beat your local rivals in that big game, I mean, I can't really remember the journey home from Wembley to Leicester, to be honest. It was only about an hour and a half.
We didn't buy a drink, that's for sure.
What do you remember about the atmosphere? Mainly thinking of those two sets of supporters, two towns coming together.
Yeah, look, it's electric, and so it should be as well. It's got an edge to it as well. And it does get you the adrenaline flowing as a player as well. You shouldn't need any motivation to get involved in a game like today. But do the modern day players really appreciate the rivalries that are at stake? They probably do, but not the importance of 15, 20 years and long ago when we probably played. But I just think they don't really get what it means to play in a local derby match now.
I feel like rivalries now are more about little things that have happened in recent fixtures.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? If there's been a little bit of an argument, that seems to linger for a couple of seasons, and all of a sudden, two teams who geographically are nowhere near are now rivals.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the players this day and age don't quite get it like we did, even though, you know, we weren't from Leicester, but we had 5 or 6 lads who were Leicester City supporters. We knew the size of the game whenever we played Derby, whenever we played Coventry, whenever we played Forest. And that week building up to the game, it's all people want to talk to you about. You know, you go and do your food shop down the supermarkets. You know, you're there, and that's all. You go and fill your car up at the petrol station. People only want to talk about the up and coming game, and the difference is if you win it, you can walk about the city with your head held high. If you lose, you stay out of sight for a few weeks.
But also, I think with modern day players as well, they're not as approachable as we were. So you don't see lads probably in the supermarket mixing with supporters and supporters telling us the importance of this game. Players don't probably live in Leicester as much as we did, or they're having chauffeur-driven people driving them in, and security guards not being able to get near them and things like that. That's a probably sad part of football, modern day football, is that supporters can't get sort of the connection with the individual players. Where we'd be in the supermarkets, the betting shops and nightclubs, where lads sort of are not approachable anymore.
Did you ever have to collar anyone and say, this game is massive?
No, I don't think so, because we knew the importance of it all, really. I can't remember any players in our dressing rooms that we had to say, this is what it's all about.
I remember the Black Country derby. There's only 17 miles separate Molyneux and the Hawthorns, and we all got the size of that game. I mean, the Old Farm derby, they call it, Norwich Ipswich. I think there's about nearly 50 miles separating those two cities, and we got it then because you had a core of UK-based players. I'm not saying the foreign influx of players in this day and age are sort of distracted from that, but I think the point I'm trying to make, because we'd seen it on TV on so many occasions.
We'd grown up with it.
I think that's the big difference.
I'm just taking a quick look at St James's Park to see what's happening there. Newcastle 1, Chelsea 0. That stays the score with around about 15 minutes to go. Sandro Tonali scored for Newcastle in 2 minutes. Nicholas Jackson's been sent off for Chelsea. In terms of the table, Newcastle with that result go up to third. And obviously this is all about the race for Champions League, really. So Chelsea will stay fifth, Villa sixth, and then Forest will be seventh. 2 points off the top 5 going into today's game.
That's big motivation, isn't it, for them today? Never mind the rivalry. The 3 points is the most important thing. Forget who you're playing against. You just want to win today to get them in closer to them Champions League positions, and they'll be keeping an eye on this result, I'm sure.
Rivalries aside, you do have to respect what Forest have done. It's been a remarkable season for them.
As I said, finished fourth and bottom last season. Yeah, and I understand they were punished and were deducted points for financial irregularities or whatever it was. But the way they've recruited, the way they play, they're outstanding defensively. I think their success is based on a really stubborn defence. I think the goalkeeper's had a fantastic season. Sells, I think he's heading for the Golden Glove Award at the end of the season. They remind me to a degree of the way Leicester played when they won the league. I think they're so good on the counter-attack. They've got pace in wide areas. They've got a centre forward in Chris Wood, who we all know about. He's had the best season of his career in this country with his 18, 19 goals. He's been fantastic. But there are similarities with the Leicester side, which won the Premier League, and this Forest team. But Nuno's done, and their recruitment's been outstanding.
That's the biggest thing. Their recruitment has been really, really good. The players that they've brought in on not loads of money. Morgan Gibbs-White, nobody really thought about taking him for...
Not 40 million, no.
But they put the money where the mouth was, and the coaches developed him, and they have the recruited really well. Where you look at comparisons between Leicester, our recruitment here probably hasn't been to the level that's required to survive in the Premiership or be sustainable in the Premiership.
So it wasn't long ago that Forest were criticised for their recruitment because there were so many people arriving, weren't there, at the City Ground? But they seem to have really rode that.
I mean, Steve Cooper took a bit... He was mocked to a degree, wasn't he? But I think that season, they lost 15 players as well. So he had to go out and sort of get a lot of players in. I mean, seemed to be a player arriving every day. I think they had number 76 come in at one stage. But I think they haven't got as big a squad now. But I think the quality that they've bought, Elanga, Manchester United couldn't get a tune out of him. He's been outstanding. Nico Williams was let go by Liverpool. he's had a fantastic season. The big centre half, the Serbian international, I can't remember his name. He's been superb in the heart of their defence. He's formed a really good partnership with the Brazilian Murillo. You know, he's not there today. Their recruitment's been top class.
I think they've learnt a lesson as well, because they had got all them players in that first season, and the owners, I think the owner will have signed quite a lot of them players without Steve Cooper knowing about them. I'm pretty sure of it. That's how these owners work. But they've probably learnt from that was not the way to go about it. Be more measured, be more sort of selecting who you're going to bring in the quality rather than the quantity. Yeah. And I think that has proved really good and a learning curve for a lot of other teams that get promoted and try and sustain the Premier League.
I'll tell you another good player, Elliot.
Yeah.
They got from Newcastle. I mean,
Anderson.
Elliot Anderson. Yeah. Because obviously Newcastle were in that place where they had to sell a young lad who'd come through the academy as well to balance the books. And I think they got him for a really good price, and he's had a fantastic season in midfield for them.
We've just seen the Leicester City team warming up at the City Ground. Bilal El Khanous, he's been a player who has come out with some plaudits from this season because he is lively, he is really exciting player, and actually has formed a really nice partnership with Jamie Vardy, or at least trying to find something that works in these last few games.
Look, I look at him and I like his ability, but I like his attitude to the game. He runs around, he sort of tries to affect it, he tries to get the ball back for the team. He looks a real good team player. You look at some players, not just at Leicester, but around the world and Premier League, that they're playing for themselves. He doesn't. I think he's got the ability, he's got the know-how, and he's only a young kid really as well. And I think he's going to get better as time goes on.
I mean, I think he probably hasn't scored as many goals as what he should, but he's a talent. As Simon said, he's only young. He's only going to get better and better, and he's only going to improve. He can unlock a door. He can pick a pass. You know, he's got great ability with his feet. He's got 2 good feet, good awareness. So he makes more good decisions than bad, and that's always a sign of a good player, especially at that young age.
I was going to say, if that one had ended up in the top corner with those lovely bit of footwork in the build-up there, it would have been a great sign. And this is kind of that, trying to get that relationship with Jamie Vardy. That was a bit more all on his own. But again, defenders backing off and backing off. They're not too sure what he's going to do.
Yeah, look, as a defenders, the one thing you don't want to be doing is having somebody running at you, being positive and trying to take you on. And you can see the defenders for Southampton there backing off. And he thought, well, I'm just going to go straight through the middle of you. And he gets his shot off, unfortunately. Doesn't hit the target, and maybe that's an area of his game, as you were saying, his numbers have not been as high as he'd like, but he wants to take the ball, he wants to receive it on the back foot, he wants to take players on, he wants to entertain, but he wants to work hard as well, and that's a good trait to have.
That positivity as a forward, when you've got someone who wants to create, how much does that ease what you need to do?
I mean, I depended on players like him to create me goals because I wasn't good enough to sort of beat 2 or 3 defenders and stick one in the top corner. I needed service, whether it from wide areas or whether it be from midfield, slipping a pass into a forward run that I'd made, and that's what he has got that vision. He's got good awareness. As Simon said, his body position when he receives the ball is really good. He always knows what options he's got in front of him. And more than one occasion, he's picked up a ball in his own half. He's taken one touch and he's slipped Jamie Vardy through, say, on more than one occasion. You want to sort of maybe build your team for next season around an El Khanous, because I think he's going to be absolutely quality next season and vital for Leicester next season.
It would have been nice to see this partnership in him and Vardy probably 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago when Jamie was at his peak and sort of, basically at his peak, and this young kid who's got the flair and the eye for a pass. I'm sure Jamie would love to have that service a few years ago. But it looks a bright future for him. If obviously Vardy's leaving the club in the summer, it'd be important who's going to be the number 9 shirt next year, who's going to lead the line, because they'll have this young kid with ability and work rate to supply in the Championship. If the club were able to keep hold of him. That's for another day.
You're watching Matchday Live, 2:15 kick-off at the City Ground, and our team there are Matt Elliott and Niall McCorn, who will be bringing you the commentary, and I think we can head over to the City Ground to catch up with them ahead of kick-off. No, we can't. They're not there. I hope they've arrived in Nottingham, but they're not with us yet. So
Matty asleep, is he?
Well, actually, I just saw a picture of his roast dinner that he's been enjoying in the Nottingham Forest media area. So that's probably what they're up to. Hopefully, we'll catch up with them soon. But let's talk about Jamie Vardy then. We mentioned him earlier. 1 goal away from 200, and he would love to do it. And give it to the rival fans because he's got a knack for that.
Do you know
Right,
what?
so where would you prefer to do it? At the City Ground or at the King Power next week? On your last appearance?
I think this is his 499th game today. As you say, he's on 199
next
goals.
week all day long.
I would agree with Simon. If I was in Jamie's position, I mean, you want to go out and score in every game that you play in. But I think if he's got a choice, and I think next week's going to be really, really emotional, and I'm lucky I'm here again. I'd prefer to score.
I think
in front
it's
of
in
my
the
own
stars
fans.
you'll score next
against
week. I just think it's football sometimes brings up these amazing quirks that happen that something happens for a reason. I just think next week it's destiny that he's going to score next week on his last appearance at the King Power after so many years and so many goals.
Well, Mark doesn't agree. Mark's been in touch on Facebook. He says Vardy hat-trick today. There we go.
Okay.
He's getting it done. He's going well past the 200. Lewis says, good luck, Leicester. Let's make this one a win today. And Louise says, good luck today, lads. Do keep your messages coming in. So if we see Jamie Vardy going in one-on-one today and he's looking around for someone to pass to.
If he gets a hat-trick today, he goes above Teddy Sheringham into 13th in the Premier League's all-star top scorers.
God, he does some stats.
That's why Iwan gets invited every week because he creates things like that. Lots has been said about Jamie Vardy, but we haven't had you guys on the sofa for a little while. So how do you reflect on his time at Leicester?
As the plaudits he gets, the words, probably there isn't enough words to describe what he's been to this football club. To come from the level where he was and do what he's done is just a remarkable, successful story. And it goes back to Steve Walsh and Nigel Pearson having the sort of, I was going to use a word I shouldn't have used. Courage to pay £1 million for somebody from Fleetwood in non-league football doesn't happen too often. And then to turn him into the player that he's been, an England international, the number of goals, the GOAT of Leicester City Football Club for years and years. It's a remarkable story, isn't it? Obviously, there'll be a film or a documentary that's going to be going around, but I can't speak highly enough of him. His work rate, his endeavour, his attitude to it. He just loves football, and he doesn't forget his roots. He still remembers being brought up in Sheffield and playing for the local team, but some of the goals that he's scored and the impact that he's had on this football club is remarkable.
This was a moment last week. Absolutely brilliant. The referee goes down, Southampton break up the other end, and Vardy's not having any of it, so he brings the game to a stop.
I mean, he's a character.
Yeah.
He is a character. And they're few and far between in this day and age now. There'll never be anyone like him. I mean, his longevity at the football club has been incredible. I mean, Leicester City's had some magnificent players over the years. Present company not included in that list. Mind you, Larry was a top captain for the football team. I think he's got to be top of the list. I really, really do. I mean, his leadership, his loyalty. I mean, he could have gone to bigger clubs. I mean, Arsenal were sniffing when Arsene Wenger were there, when he was banging the goals in for fun at the club, when he helped the club win the Premier League. He stayed loyal. You know, I've got to say, he's as loyal as a Labrador. His enthusiasm for the game, his desire, his hunger hasn't wavered at all. He doesn't get frustrated because it's a hard job this day and age when you're playing up there on your own. You're not getting a touch. You're sort of having to feed off bits. He doesn't get frustrated with his teammates. And I love that about him.
I think this is going to be probably one of the greatest football stories that maybe has ever been. I can't remember another player that's had an influence on a football club from where he's come from. I can't think of anybody else that has had...
To go from a lad who played for...
non-league football.
And he was knocked at the start of his career. You know, Sheffield Wednesday, his team, they let him go. He went to Halifax. He went to a couple of non-league teams until he was given a chance in the football conference with Fleetwood. They won the league. I think he's got about 25, 30 goals that season, which attracted the interest of Leicester. But as Larry said, for Leicester to go and spend £1 million, which would have been a lot of money back then, on a non-league player. But I think that's what makes him special as well, because he had those knockbacks early in his career. You know, he didn't become a professional footballer until he was 26. I think that's why he's still playing at the age and to the standard that he is at 38. I mean, yeah, I can't see it ever happening again.
Yeah, can you think of another story? I
Not someone who spent 12 years at football, 12 or 13 years.
But coming from where he's come from, and he's gone through League One, the Championship, the Premier League, and State England caps, and winning the Premier League, winning the FA Cup.
You were at Leeds with Cantona.
Yeah.
Could you see Cantona leaving Leeds and going to United and having the impact that he had there?
No whatsoever.
But I mean,
well, the billboard for the documentary is just behind us, because look, that sums it up, that picture, doesn't it?
Yeah, certainly does. Look at all them trophies.
And he comes across as such a down-to-earth person.
Well, say he gets all the goals, but he doesn't have the personality, like the referee whistle, like the celebrations we've seen. Does he get talked about the same? Does he get remembered the same?
You do, because you get the numbers of what strikers are judged on, the numbers of goals scored, assists. That's what they're judged on. If he's a great lad and doesn't score any goals, people will say he's the worst player in the world. All of a sudden, he scores the goals, the numbers, great footballer, but to have that added personality as well, it's just the perfect combination, isn't it, really? One thing he did last week, slipped up. He should have got a red card out of the referee and give him a red card, to be fair.
That's a director's note, isn't it? There you go. It is absolutely remarkable. Alan Shearer called it earlier this week the best £1 million ever spent in football.
By far. I mean, you can't compare any other value for money than what Leicester paid for Jamie Vardy. Now, £1 million. What do you get? Not just in. I think I cost
too
Wolves.
much.
I did. You asked their fans, and you're right. When I left Leicester, I left for 1.25 to go to Wolves. I mean, he's coming for £1 million, and Simon's right. It is all about numbers, and he's been consistent. Last season at 37, he get 18 goals in about 33, 34 appearances, and he's not really. Even at 38, he's not really lost that. He might have lost a little bit of pace, but not a lot. You know, you still fancy him in a race. I mean, if he gets a chance against these two today, you still fancy him to outsprint them.
Yeah. You used the word courage earlier about bringing Vardy to Leicester. Put yourself in a manager's shoes now. Would you have the courage to take a gamble on someone, not Jamie Vardy, someone who's come non-league, looks good, looks decent, isn't the finished product?
Well, that's what everybody's now looking at. They've seen Jamie Vardy do what he's done. Everybody's now scouring the lower leagues to see if they can get some. And look, there has been some other players that have done really well, but not. I don't think you get another player like Jamie Vardy from the lower leagues to do what he's done. What I'm saying is, they can probably make it to the Championship or the Premier League and play, but not to go on to numbers that he's had, England caps, trophies that he's won. This is a one-off story that will never be recreated again. That's my opinion. Hopefully it happens to some other individual along the way, because they'll be buzzing to be able to achieve that. But I just think this is a unique one-off situation.
I remember when my last club, Norwich, that they signed Timu Pukki on a free transfer. But Timu, he played for Celtic. I think he played for Seville. But not as many games as maybe he thought he should have. So he sort of bounced about a few clubs, hadn't really settled. Norwich bring him in on a free transfer, and his goal record at the club was ridiculous. And his goals were the main reason that they won 2 promotions, or they won the league twice to get promoted to the Premier League. But it's not a Jamie Vardy story.
It's not winning the Premier League.
No, it's not.
He's not playing for England.
Yeah. It's not winning the FA Cup.
Yeah.
It's not getting.
That's why it'll never happen again.
It's not getting to a quarter final of a Champions League. It's not getting to a semi final of the Europa Conference League, I think it was.
The only issue that you're going to have is where's his statue going to go?
And his goal celebrations. I mean, he must think the one at, was it Crystal Palace where he did the old Eagles one. He always thinks of a magnificent. He'll probably have a special one today.
There was the Tottenham one earlier this season as well with the Premier League badge, which was absolutely sensational. But
I know he's wound up the Leeds supporters over the last few years as well.
Next week will certainly be a special day at King Power Stadium and an emotional one as well. Just some big news from St James's Park. Newcastle have scored a second. Newcastle 2, Chelsea 0, 93 minutes on the clock. 2 more to go in added time. Nottingham Forest are probably just in the dressing room, just seeing that coming in. What does that do to you as a player? You know you are 2 points off getting into those Champions League places or getting back into those Champions League places.
If they needed sort of a dangling carrot in front of them, that result at St James's will give them that. Not that they will need that. No. I think they'll be going into this game. I think they've won 4 points in their last 5. So they're on a bit of they've lost their last 2 at home. It's Brentford and Everton. They haven't scored. Maybe Leicester play them at
it's
the
probably
right
a good time to play them. Yeah, I agree.
There's massive pressure on them. I think this has to be, with the games that they've got left, I think it has to be a must-win game for Forest.
Because who did we say that they've got? They've got Chelsea.
They've got Chelsea
last game of the season.
Chelsea last game of the season is absolutely huge for both clubs. And interestingly, I was saying to you earlier, the Chelsea European finals just 3 days after that. And of course, they got Real Betis in that, which is a much more challenging game than they've had throughout that competition. So there could be so many angles to be, as a manager, looking, who am I going to play, who am I going to rest?
As Chelsea, what's the most important thing? I'm not sure winning the conference, what is it, the Conference League, which they would qualify for the Europa League. I think finishing top 4 would be a priority for
Well, they've got enough
Chelsea.
players to try and do both, haven't they?
2 teams, can they?
Absolutely. So much going on in the world of football. How would you sum up the season from, not necessarily Leicester City point of view, from a Premier League point of view?
Surprising in terms of how poor Manchester City have been and not had the success that they'd like to have. And obviously very impressed by Arne Slot at Liverpool, what he's gone and done. And yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because the Premier League over the last few years, there's always been a few things that have been available or still to be confirmed the last couple of weeks of the season. Relegation was confirmed sort of weeks ago. Liverpool won the Premier League probably 2 weeks ago or something like that, 10 days ago.
December, I think.
Yeah. So all of a sudden it's been a bit boring, to be fair, in a way.
Well, it's been good, the European bit, hasn't it? That has been something to keep
I think it's been good seeing the likes of Forest, seeing your Bournemouth,
Crystal Palace,
Brighton, keeping the standard that they've set over the last 3 seasons. I think they're the good, your Brentfords, carrying on the good work that they've done over the last 3 seasons to sort of maintain and what's the word I'm looking for? To stabilise themselves as Premier League football clubs. That's what Leicester need to do.
Yeah, like Newcastle as well, in the top 3 now and winning the Carabao Cup. It's been a surprising season who've gone and won the trophies, because it's been quite boring. City winning most of the things. At least there's been a bit more variation this year.
Well, you mentioned the relegation picture earlier, didn't you? But when you look at that table, Wolves just above, then it's Man United and Tottenham.
Yeah.
And you think, wow, that's how strong that middle section of the Premier League has become.
I was looking the other day, and I like Ange Postecoglou, and I do hope they go on and win the Europa League. He's had a tough season, but it's only the bottom 3 that have lost more games than Spurs, and that's going to be another interesting one. Even if apparently he always wins a trophy in his second season at a club. That'll be an interesting one because they've had such a bad season in the Premier League. What do they do? Even if he wins a major trophy, it'd be hard to sort of get rid of him then, I think.
Well, I did a podcast with Sam Allardyce the other day, and the question was, who needs to win that trophy more, Amaron at United or Ange at Tottenham? And it was like, whoa.
Toss of a coin.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a long discussion.
You don't know when you're going to get.
I've got breaking news. Matt Elliott
has
finished his dinner, which is amazing news. And we can go live to the City ground and speak to former Leicester City captain Matt Elliott. Afternoon. Is he on pudding? He must be on pudding. Can't hear him. No, Matt Elliott. We'll try and get him. Honestly, I hope he turns up for the commentary.
He's probably not there yet, knowing Matt.
No Matt Elliott at the moment.
Can
but
you
we'll
hear
try
me?
and get him back.
He probably didn't leave his house till 1:30.
But that is the thing, isn't it? When you look at, I arrived at King Power earlier today and thinking, oh, it's only a couple of hours to kick off. The coaches are only just leaving. You forget how close this is.
Yeah.
How important this is for those bragging rights tomorrow morning, as we said. Are we going to try and get Matt Elliott again? Matt, have you finished your dinner? Please, have you finished your pudding?
Hello, I'm just wiping the custard off my face.
Wiping the custard off his face.
Have we got it there yet? Yeah.
Matt, good to speak to you. How you doing? How's the City ground this afternoon?
Oh, good. It's absolutely jumping, to be fair. I've been here. You speak about the couple of hours before kick-off. Unusually, I was on time today, parked up and had a 5-minute walk. It was a sea of red shirts, you have to say. Although there's plenty more blue shirts now. I'm actually in the stadium. They've made their way up the M1, but it's quite a vibrant atmosphere. As you can imagine, there's a lot riding on it from Leicester's point of view, but also, unfortunately, Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, that Newcastle game has just finished, so they have beaten Chelsea. So Forest know that if they win, they go into that Champions League qualification places. So yeah, if they get 3 points, they'll go above Chelsea into 5th, which is just a huge carrot for them. Leicester would love to spoil that party, though, wouldn't they, Matt?
Yeah, adds to the mix, doesn't it? I think, as you say, Champions League is the ultimate target for Nottingham Forest, and what achievement it would be. They currently sit 7th, I think I'm right in saying, but if they win, they would go into 4th, 5th, or
5th.
5th is it one of the slots? So yeah, there's a lot of hope and a lot of expectancy from the home crowd here, understandably so. But in terms of hope, the blue shirts of Leicester City supporters are going to be wanting their team to put up, at least a lot of resilience there. It's going to be a difficult situation, but you can hold on to the hope that Jamie Vardy is going to turn up with something unusual, as he has done many times before, hasn't he? And wouldn't put it beyond him to pinch his 200th goal for Leicester this afternoon. But it's going to be tough going. The Forest, like I say, are vibrant at the moment, have a lot to play for. Beautiful day as it is everywhere across the country this afternoon. Unfortunately, we're stuck in the shade, but yeah, really looking forward to it, because despite Leicester already being relegated, there's quite a lot on this game.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Vardy conundrum of where he would love to get his 200th goal. Would you go for this weekend at the City ground in front of your rivals, or would you go for next weekend at a packed King Power?
Yeah, good question. I suppose some people would, perhaps the glory of scoring in his last home game would be very fitting, but you can balance that as well, couldn't you? As a Leicester supporters would like nothing more than for Jamie Vardy to put one over on local rivals Forest, and in doing so, prevent their development into Europe. But one in each, I suppose, is not beyond Jamie's capabilities, is it? But yeah, I don't know. We have to wait and see how that one goes.
Matt Elliott will be on commentary with Niall McCorn this afternoon from the City ground when we go live there in a little while. Let's get a recap of the teams before we do go over to the City ground, starting with Leicester, and it's an unchanged lineup from last weekend's victory against Southampton. Just the one change on the bench, with Facundo Buonanotte returning to the replacements after overcoming his concussion protocol. So that is the one change. As for Forest, Murillo is out. He was injured against Crystal Palace last time out. So Morato comes in to the back line for Forest, of course, spearheaded by former Leicester player Chris Wood, who's had such a brilliant season for Nottingham Forest. Now, before we hand over to the guys for commentary, let's get final thoughts. How do you feel today is going to go? How do you see the game playing out, Iwan?
The pressure is all on them because of the prize, the run of form that they're in, the prize that they're going for. As we've spoken about, they've had a great season, manager of the year in my opinion, but they've lost their last two. Our form against them isn't great. I think we've only won one in our last 6 or 7. We haven't won at the City ground since 2012. On the back of what happened here last week against Southampton, I'm going to be brave and go for the Leicester win.
I think first goal will be important. We saw the first goal last week against Southampton, give the players a buzz, the supporters a buzz. Forest get it, it might be give them a lift after the run of form that you mentioned there. And if Leicester obviously get it, it's going to be something to really hang on to and build off as well. So I think the first goal will be crucial, because there's not too many times that Leicester have conceded the first goal and come back and won this season. So that'll be the big part, and hopefully somebody apart from Jamie Vardy scores it and he comes back next week and gets his goal.
What was Matty's answer?
On the fence. What do
No
you expect?
way, has he got no opinion
He
on
went,
it?
oh, maybe one in both. Typical Matt Elliott. He'll be talking you through today's game with Niall McCorn from the City Ground. We'll be back with half-time analysis and your full-time reaction as well. But full commentary is on the way next on Matchday Live.